From the insane amount of experience under his belt to the determination to take on the last stylebender again, this is why Robert Whittaker will destroy Dricus Du Plessis. The Reaper's a true veteran in the promotion, and the best part is, he's not even that old.
Yeah, I've been in this game a long time. I've had a lot of fights. I've fought a lot of tough dudes.
At just 32, it seems as if Bobby Knuckles has been fighting at the highest level for ages. During that time, Rob's taken on and has beaten some of the best fighters that MMA had to offer. This includes guys like Yoel Romero, Uriah Hall, and Derek Brunson. The fact that Whittaker's already been fighting at the very top since 2012 directly puts him up as the favorite heading into the match. Whether he fights against strikers or grapplers, the Reaper's proven himself time and time again.
And that's fine. I like that because that's my job. I get in there and I do business.
Currently, Whittaker holds a professional record of 24 wins and 6 losses, and as I mentioned, most of his matches have been at the highest level in the UFC. Dricus, on the other hand, is relatively new to the promotion, and so far he's won every single one of the 5 matches that the UFC's put him in. But the difference is in the way that he wins. Where Rob usually dominates most of his opponents, Still Knox hangs on for dear life until he can find a way to win. Just take his fight against Brunson, for example. Yeah, he may have won it in the end, but Du Plessis allowed Derek to take him down to the ground, which was a huge mistake. You all know how great of a grappler Brunson is, and it looked as if it'd be game over for Dricus in the first round. He did survive it somehow and came out with a different strategy in the second round. Brunson wasn't out of the fight, but his corner decided that they'd seen enough and threw in the towel. Now compare that to when Whittaker took on Derek back in 2016, when he was still a relatively young man. The Reaper took out Brunson with a head kick in the closing moments of the first round, because he knew that going to the ground with a fighter like that would have been a mistake. Dricus is still pretty green in the UFC octagon. I mean, why else would he allow a 39-year-old to manhandle him like that? And that wasn't all. Du Plessis made the same mistake against Brad Tavares. The South African essentially gave up the first 5 minutes of the match to the Hawaiian, and the worst part is that he was the one who dove in for a takedown against Brad. Once again, he adapted in the second round and kept the fight off the ground. But honestly, guys, Dricus' combos really looked wild, as if he had no game plan whatsoever and was just trying to catch Tavares with something. That's a Hail Mary if I've ever seen one. Luckily for him, it worked out. Still Knox managed to cut up Brad in a couple of places on his face, and from there, it was pretty easy for him to secure a decision win. The thing that bothers me is why wasn't he able to secure a KO or a TKO win? I mean, when Whittaker took on Tavares back in 2015, he finished the Hawaiian in the first minute of the match. That raises some serious questions on Du Plessis' ability to close out fights, because he even let Darren Till back into the match. After Dricus took down the gorilla early, I thought the match was over. Till had no response to the ground and pound, and all he could do was tell the ref that he was still good to fight. But instead of doing more of the same, the South African altered his strategy for some reason in the second round and chose to kickbox against Darren. This allowed the Brit a way back into the match. It was such a horrible strategy that even the commentators and the fans were left baffled. Du Plessis may have won that fight too, but as I said, he doesn't have the experience to finish the fights off as Whittaker does. That might have worked against Till, who'd all but given up by the third round, but stuff like that would come back to bite Still Knox if he allows Rob the same chance. Even when the Reaper goes to a decision, he knows what to do to secure the win for himself. I can't say the same about Dricus. He may have similar skills to Whittaker, but Bobby Knuckles is just better all around. Du Plessis has a second-degree black belt in kickboxing, but you guys must have seen how Rob dismantled elite strikers like Hall and Till, and he almost defeated Israel Adesanya too. Dricus can wrestle too, you say? Well, the Reaper has bested some of the best grapplers like Marvin Vettori and Kelvin Gastelum as well. The point is, there's no aspect of the game where Rob isn't simply better. He has black belts in Hapkido, Karate, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which makes him a much more complete fighter than Du Plessis. And as I said, the Reaper's proven that he can effectively use all of his techniques in several battles throughout the years. Dricus also has a tendency of walking in with his chin stuck out, which would make it easy pickings for Rob. As for his wild blitzes, Whittaker would just let him tire himself out before going in for the kill. Speaking of which, there would also be a clear gas tank advantage in Rob's favor. You guys saw how soon Dricus starts breathing through his mouth during his fights, right? He claimed that he has trouble breathing with his nose and that he doesn't get enough oxygen through it, so he has to open his mouth in order to breathe. I can't help but notice how much he struggles with those huge gulps of air that he has to take in between fights. Du Plessis may have gotten a surgery to address that issue now, but how will he fare against one of the best middleweights out there? Rob may be a very nice guy outside the cage, but when he's fighting, the man knows no mercy. Plus, he has a lot of championship experience as well. Unlike Dricus, Rob is used to fighting in 5-round matches, which means he has a very good idea about how to pace himself a lot better, and has a considerably larger gas tank. It might be a small blessing for Still Knox that their fight is only scheduled for 3 rounds, but it still wouldn't give him an edge over Whittaker. Even Dricus knows how good the Reaper is. That's why he admitted that it's a tougher fight than Adesanya. According to the South African, there isn't much difference between Izzy and Rob in terms of how well they've done in the sport so far. But Du Plessis said that Whittaker's a more complete fighter, even though he isn't as tall as Adesanya. The Reaper can do everything. He can wrestle, he can grapple, and he can strike, so it's not easy to fight him. On top of all that, Bobby Knuckles has a tremendous amount of pace in the octagon and is also a lot stronger than most guys. Dricus believes that there are more blueprints to beat Izzy that he can use, but he can't do much in terms of preparation for Rob. All he can do is to try and catch him as soon as he can or just outwork him, but that's just next to impossible in his opinion. The Reaper doesn't tire, and he never quits, so Du Plessis is sure that life isn't going to be easy for him at UFC 290. No wonder everyone is betting on Whittaker to take the win on the night. There isn't a single fighter or analyst who thinks that Dricus can hold his own against Bobby. Even the former champ, Alex Pereira, gave his prediction on Twitter and declared that the fight's going to be an easy paycheck for Rob. Izzy himself wants Dricus to win, just so that he has a new opponent. One he could smack later like he promised, but the middleweight champ knows that beating Whittaker's going to be really difficult for Dricus. Apart from all of his physical attributes, the Reaper is driven to win his title back by taking out the last stylebender. Izzy's the only man who has ever beaten Rob at middleweight, so he just wants to pay it right back to the guy who snatched his title from him. Think of Whittaker as the gatekeeper to the middleweight crown. No one in the division can get past the man, and Rob hasn't been able to beat Adesanya yet. That obviously causes Dana some problems because he doesn't have any ranked fighters left who can take out either Whittaker or Izzy. That's one of the reasons why Still Knox was fast-tracked to the big leagues, but the Reaper is just on another level and should comfortably get the win.
That's what I'm gunning for. That's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'm hungry for. That's how I progress. That's how I move forward. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep lurking.
So, from the determination to take on the last stylebender again, to the insane amount of experience under his belt, this was why Robert Whittaker will destroy Dricus Du Plessis.
I'm doing the right things. I'm training. I'm like competing as much as I can as well. And yeah, I'm good at what I do.